The 2025 Boston mayoral race, a seemingly local contest between incumbent Michelle Wu and challenger Josh Kraft, is unfolding against a powerful and polarizing national backdrop. While officially a non-partisan election, the political landscape is heavily influenced by the Trump factor, a term describing the political and cultural polarization stemming from the Trump administration. Recent polling from Emerson College and Suffolk University reveals a commanding lead for Mayor Wu, with one survey showing her ahead by more than 50 points. This is not merely a reflection of her local popularity, but a direct consequence of her campaign's strategic positioning against the Trump administration's policies, particularly on immigration. Wu has successfully transformed the race into a referendum on her progressive values and her defiance of federal overreach, a message that resonates deeply with Boston's overwhelmingly liberal electorate. The dynamic is straightforward. Mayor Wu is leveraging her record of resistance to national political figures, while Josh Kraft, despite his own moderate democratic views, is struggling to define a clear identity that isn't overshadowed by his family's ties to a well-known Trump supporter. Wu's campaign has consistently highlighted her refusal to bow to federal pressure on sanctuary city laws and her public criticism of the Trump administration's plans to deploy the National Guard. This stance has cemented her as a champion for the city's values and has effectively turned her into a bulwark against what many Bostonians perceive as an existential threat to democratic and humanitarian norms. Reasons and consequences. The reasons for Wu's success are multifaceted. First, her progressive agenda aligns with Boston's political DNA. Policies like her municipal Green New Deal, affordable housing initiatives, and free bus lines are popular and directly address local concerns. However, it is her bold political theatre against Trump that has galvanized her base. By taking a vocal stand on national issues, she has created an us versus them narrative that motivates voters who might otherwise be disengaged from a local re-election bid. The political consequence for Kraft has been severe. Despite his efforts to articulate his own policy differences, focusing on issues like housing regulations, public safety at mass and CAS, and education reform, his message is struggling to cut through the noise. He is caught in a difficult position where his own moderate-leaning solutions are perceived as a less-than-firm rebuke of national policies, which is a major liability in a city where disdain for Trump is a baseline requirement for any viable candidate. Furthermore, Kraft's family connection to a prominent Trump supporter has become an unstated but significant obstacle. While he has publicly stated his opposition to Trump's policies, his name recognition is tied to a dynasty with a complex political history. This has made it difficult for him to shake the perception that he is not a true progressive and that his campaign lacks the authenticity of values. This dynamic is a clear example of the nationalization of local politics, where a candidate's perceived ideological purity is now more important than their local government experience. Prediction and solutions based on the current polling data, which shows Mayor Wu with a formidable lead. It is highly likely that she will be re-elected to a second term. The preliminary election result is expected to be a strong indicator of the final outcome in November. Kraft's campaign has not managed to gain the traction needed to close the massive gap, and it is improbable that he can sway enough voters in the coming weeks. The Trump factor is not a minor headwind for him. It is a hurricane that has blown his campaign off course. For Kraft to have any chance, he would need to pivot to a strategy that directly and forcefully addresses the national issue head-on. Perhaps by highlighting his own deep community roots and contrasting his pragmatic approach with what he could frame as Wu's performative politics. He would need to convince voters that local leadership requires a focus on local issues and that the mayor's office should not be a platform for national ideological battles. However, given the current political climate and his past difficulties in defining his brand, this is an incredibly steep climb. Ultimately, the election will serve as a stark reminder that in an increasingly polarized nation, even local races are not immune to the gravitational pull of national politics.